Anthony Edwards over the past 4 years has always been one of, if not the most physically gifted athlete in the NBA. But on top of that talent, Ant's also starting to problem solve and make adjustments on the biggest stage. And that's been on full display so far against the Lakers. Now throughout this series, the game plan for LA has been to load up on the ball as much as possible. If Ant's playing with the ball in open space, LA is going to do their best to shrink the floor with aggressive gap defense. And the idea behind this was to clog up all that space and push him out into contested jumpers late in the shot clock.
Smith does an excellent job.
Look how heavily both LeBron and Luka shift up. And James pretty much commits the ball all the way, and they funnel Ant into another tough contested step back. Now on this play, the Lakers are going to switch the screen, and look how Finney Smith is going to stay pressed up in gap, while Goodwin also shifts across the paint to provide extra help. And this again leads to another contested off the dribble jumper. Now on top of the Lakers trying to force Edwards into standstill offense, they were also banking on him not being able to make these cross-court passing reads, which has also been a weakness in his game, where he either misreads rotations and gets his pass picked off, or he actually makes the right read, but his delivery is way off the mark.
From LeBron, cross court to Randall.
So in essence, that was the Lakers' game plan for Ant. Shrink the floor and force him to play in crowds, while also exposing his weaknesses as a playmaker. But Edwards throughout this series had multiple ways to counter this aggressive and overhelping style of defense. First, from an athletic and skill standpoint, Ant probably has the best toolkit in the league to score in traffic. He's got the speed to create straight line blow-bys, plus the explosiveness to elevate and finish over traffic. And while playing downhill, Ant also has a variety of pickups and strides he likes to use to wiggle his way through the lane. And he can cover a ridiculous amount of ground with the ball. We'll see him here take one dribble and get to this low pickup right at the 3-point line, to then extend all the way to the rim with the scoop finish. And while getting to these pickups, Ant can also connect it into different Euro steps in the paint. We'll see him again use that low gather to slice past the gap defense. And when James rotates over from the weak side, Ant's going to flow into a right-left Euro step. So the combination of Edwards being able to cover a ton of ground with the ball, while having all these different Euro steps in his bag, gives him the perfect skill set to slice through crowds and put pressure on the rim. Look how the Lakers on this play collapse the paint with literally all 5 defenders. But Ant still finds a way to knife through for a finish. Now I think a really underrated part of Ant's game is actually going to be his ball handling. First, he does have the ball control to string together combinations and cook the defense in open space, but most of his moves are very efficient. Simple hezzy blow-bys and sharp changes of direction, and that mixed with his elite first step makes him pretty much impossible to guard straight up. Watch him here push the ball across and explode to his right, to then slam the brakes and snatch the ball back through. Then he's going to hit the turbo button and explode into this open space. Off the dribble, I also think Edwards has improved his pace with the ball. If his initial drive gets walled off, he's comfortable keeping his dribble alive and setting up different attacks. I like this move here, where Ant's going to get this between blow-by to his left, but then as the help defense slides across, watch him slow down and lift up his chest, to then drop back down and pick up into a finish. Another wrinkle Ant has added to his scoring is being able to pick up and play off 2 feet in the mid-range. Now I haven't watched every T-Wolves game this year, so you can tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I feel like shots like this for Edwards are pretty new. Being able to bump and turn into short jumpers, as well as hit these nice shot fakes and step throughs. And these might not be the most efficient shots on paper, but it does give him another layer of counters if the defense crowds the paint. Now the next thing we have to look at is Ant's 3-point shooting, and more specifically his 3-point shooting off the dribble. So far this year, nobody across the NBA has taken or made more threes off the dribble than Edwards. And then on top of that high volume, he's also shooting a pretty accurate 38%. And this really is the ultimate counter to defenses that want to sit heavy in gap and shrink the floor, because no matter how much space you take away, it's still not stopping him from getting a 3 off in isolation.
16, Edwards.
Now, Ant's ability to create space behind the line all stems from that rim pressure. If Ant drops his level and starts playing with the ball back and forth, that's often enough to push the defense back and give him the space to rise up. When creating separation, I also think Ant's balance and stability with the ball plays a big factor. Being able to quickly stop and start off the dribble, to then organize his feet for on-balance jumpers. And again, the foundation to all these moves lays with Ant's ability to explode downhill. Watch him rip hard to his right. And notice how Gabe Vincent's stance is completely opened up, making it impossible for him to recover when Ant slams the brakes. I love this move here, where Edwards first hits Hachimura with an in and out, to then again lower those shoulders selling the drive. And when he stops on a dime again, he gets really stumbling forward. Now all these shots are mostly positives in Ant's game, but at the same time, I do think Edwards at times can be a little trigger happy with some of these looks. While he has taken a major jump forward as a perimeter scorer, the best part of his game is always going to be that downhill attacking. And there's times where Ant elects to settle for tough contested stepbacks instead of putting pressure on the rim. Take this play for example. Ant's able to cleanly turn the corner off the screen. And from this spot, he's pretty much beaten Jackson Hayes. And he has the Lakers' weakest defender here sitting in gap. From this spot, Ant should turn on the Jets and attack into this open space. But he elects to stop and force up a step back that gets blocked. But overall, the pros of Ant's outside shooting far outweigh his cons.
They trailed after the first quarter, and it's Anthony Edwards.
Now, it's also important to note that outside shooting also upgrades Ant's value off the ball, where he gives Minnesota another player who can space the floor and knock down open threes. And so far in this series, Ant's shooting a ridiculous 72% on all his catch and shoot threes. Obviously that number isn't going to be sustainable going forward, but this again shows how much of a leap he's taken as a shooter. And it can't be overstated how valuable that shot making is in the postseason. Like we've seen, playoff basketball is really physical, and players who rely heavily on their physical tools tend to struggle. Guys like Ja Morant and Russell Westbrook come to mind. Regardless of how physically gifted players like that are, it's hard to depend on being athletic for an entire postseason, especially with the paint being crowded and more physicality being allowed. When looking at all the backcourt players who have thrived in the postseason, pretty much all of them are snipers. Players like Steph Curry, Jamal Murray, and Kyrie come to mind. So regardless of what defenses try to throw at Ant going forward, the ace up his sleeve is always going to be the outside shooting. And him being able to hit shots both off the dribble and catch just gives his game way more flexibility.
Against Finney Smith, step back, jump shots, got it!
And then along with that on-ball scoring, I also think Edwards has taken some steps forward as a passer. I still wouldn't say he's at an elite level, but he's still making steady improvements. First, if he gets the gap defense to overcommit to the ball, he has no problem making these routine kick-out passes to shooters. And because Edwards puts so much pressure on the rim, he commonly pulls the backline defense up once he gets into the paint, which then opens up these dimes to his teammates at the dunker spot. Now, like I said, probably Ant's biggest weakness as a passer is his inability to consistently punish the defense on the weak side, but he has made a few good reads throughout this series. We'll see him here isolating against Luka at the top of the key, and look how LeBron is going to cheat down towards the paint, opening up this skip pass to Randall in the corner. Now, while some of these reads by Edwards are pretty good, I also think many of these clips expose the holes in the Lakers defense, specifically their inability to close out and contain the ball on the perimeter. In games 3 and 4, I thought Luka and Reeves got burnt off the dribble way too many times. And if your game plan is to heavily commit to the ball, defenders on the weak side have to be able to scramble and plug up any breakdowns. But that simply hasn't been the case throughout this series. So while I think the Lakers defense has plenty of room for improvement, I still can't take away any credit from Anthony Edwards. He's shown that when he's in attack mode, he's easily the most gifted slasher across the league. And that combined with his major jump as an outside shooter might make him the best scorer in the playoffs right now. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments who the kids should break down next. The kids here.